Good morning and welcome to Information Tuesday. I'm Kelly Sheets, and today we're going to talk about how to write a corrective action plan, or a CAP. You can email me with any questions that you have about it, and I will also send you a link to this recording, and I will also send you the PowerPoint that I'm getting ready to go through. So, with that said, we'll get started. Okay. Okay. So, first of all, a CAP should state the issue or problem that has been identified through monitoring. And your CAP should address each specific finding and, if appropriate, the cause of the problem. It should also state the action proposed by the agency to correct the issue. So you would need to list the individuals who will be responsible for implementing the corrective action plan. And you need to create simple, measurable solutions that address each finding. And you need to set reasonable deadlines to have the finding corrected. If it's something that's going to be an ongoing corrective action over 6 months, don't say it'll all be fixed in 30 days. And then the next thing it should state is the measurement by which the agency will monitor the progress of the CAP. So you need to explain how that progress is measured and who's responsible for monitoring that progress. And also, something very important, explain how the issue will be prevented in the future. So make sure you list out any steps that you plan to take to ensure that whatever finding has been found by the monitoring team will not occur again in the future. So what I'm going to do now is just go through typical findings for each program, and I'm going to give you a good example and a bad example of CAPs. So the first program we're going to look at is Homecare, and one of the typical findings is that there's no documentation in client files to support a referral for a score of 6 or more on the nutrition screening. So a good CAP example would be AAA staff, and you want to be very specific here and name who the staff is. So AAA staff name will identify which clients did not receive the proper referrals. Once the clients are identified, the provider agency will make the appropriate referrals by, and you're going to want to list a specific date. Then that specific AAA staff member will follow up by a specific date to ensure the referrals were made. The provider agency will complete the nutrition checklist on each participant annually. AAA staff, again, you want to name a specific staff, will monitor for compliance, and the supervisor, AAA supervisor, will complete quality assurance on a quarterly basis. So that's an example of a good CAP. This is an example of a bad CAP. AAA staff will ensure referrals are made going forward. It's not specific. It doesn't list dates. It doesn't list how you're going to keep it from happening in the future. And it doesn't list specifically how you're going to correct it. Okay, our next finding is another home care example. And the finding is no signed copy of client's rights and responsibilities form in the files reviewed. So our good example for this finding, case managers will obtain updated and signed client's rights and responsibilities forms for all home care clients over the next 3 months. The supervisor will follow up, and you can name the supervisor specifically if that's applicable. The supervisor will follow up to ensure all updated signed forms are in the client's files by a specific date. Make sure you list the date that you're going to have that done. Going forward, case managers will obtain signed forms at assessment and reassessment. So this states how you're going to keep that from happening again in the future. And our bad example is case managers will obtain signed Okay. Case managers will obtain signed clients' rights and responsibilities forms at assessment. It's not specific. It doesn't say how you're going to correct the problem, and it doesn't name specific staff that are going to address the problem or monitor the problem to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Our next program is 3B Supportive Services, and our finding is all documented examples of information and assistance do not meet the taxonomy definition. So a good example, AAA staff, name them specifically please, will provide mandatory training on a specific date to subcontractors on the taxonomy. Backup documentation will be required by the subcontractor to be submitted to the AAA quarterly with invoices to verify the service provided meets the taxonomy definition. Technical assistance will continue to be provided by the AAA as needed. And our bad example, AAA has started training. Ongoing training for subcontractors will be made available. Again, just the key to the CAPs is to be specific and to address how you're going to monitor that they don't happen in the future. Our next program is the nutrition program, and the typical finding is senior center staff and director were unable to state policy for the emergency plan for serving meals to the participant. And a good CAP example is AAA staff will provide mandatory training with all senior center staff on whatever date you choose. During this time, AAA staff, name them specifically please, will review the senior center's emergency backup plan for serving meals to participants, and each senior center staff and AAA staff will sign off on the plan. The plan will be reviewed annually, and all parties will sign off at annual training. A copy of the plan is submitted with this corrective action as attachment A. So there's your good example. And your bad example, AAA staff will request a copy of the emergency backup plan from the senior center director. Our next program is 3E, National Family Caregiver, and the finding that I chose, no documentation and case files to show other services and programs were researched to meet the requested need prior to using caregiver funds to avoid duplication. So a good CAP example would read something like this. Effective immediately, all caregiver intake calls will be processed by the ADRC coordinator, who will then research available resources and send to the review team prior to referring to the caregiver program. Case notes will reflect all actions. And a bad CAP example. ADRC coordinator completes this task first before submitting referral to the caregiver program by client's eligibility. All are reviewed for PDS services and other programs before being referred to caregiver program. However, beginning with new clients, the ADRC coordinator will document why the use of caregiver funds were used with a statement that ADRC researched before referring. The next is Kentucky Caregiver. The typical finding is no documentation and case files to verify relationship by blood, marriage, or adoption for grandparents and grandchildren. A good example is effective immediately, AAA staff, specific name here please, will adhere to the Kentucky Caregiver regulation requirements by requesting official documentation of relationship for the grandparent and grandchild or grandchildren. AAA staff, specific, will monitor that relationship is documented over the next 12 months. And a bad example would be Dale Kentucky Family Caregiver Program application, page 2 asks, how are you related to the grandchild? Blood, marriage, adoption. The grandparent answers this question. So this is a bad example because it is relying on the client to answer a question. It does not ask for proof or any type of verification. Our next program is the ADRC, and the typical finding is level 1 screenings were reviewed and found to be incomplete. A good example of a CAP would be the ADRC coordinator will ensure that all level 1 screenings will be fully completed going forward. If a field is not applicable, notes will be entered explaining why. The supervisor or AAA director will ensure all level 1 screenings are complete. And a bad CAP example. There are times when the caller does not know the answer to specific questions asked on the level 1 screening. Therefore, the caller has to call back, which causes a delay in completing the level 1 screening. And that is it for today. I have included my name, title, and contact information on this PowerPoint. You all are free to contact me with any questions. You can call or email me. I would probably prefer an email, just so we have a record of your questions. So thanks a lot, and have a good Tuesday.